And tonight we have Dan Platt of the Albany Green Party, and he has
Bread and roses, bread and roses. There's an intro.
there you go. There's a great intro song. Yeah, so I had to reset my computer because it was not working right, and in the process lost all my OBS settings and intro
It,
video and all that stuff.
you must have had a cyber attack from them.
It shows me that I'm over the target, I guess. Oh man. So yeah. Anyway, so it took a while to get things back online, but we've done it, and we're here finally, streaming
I've
once
cut
more.
I've cut myself from all Windows updates, so I think I should be safe for now.
Okay.
Let me scooch in. All right. So we're gonna have fun. I'm tired of covering. Well, we don't try to cover depressing things, um, like
Pretty
say those
optimistic, I would say.
trials. Oh boy, Biden and Trump, both felons. I totally loved finding out about the thing I was not paying attention to whatsoever and didn't care about it at all.
Yeah,
And
I
then
could
that's
not
not
care less.
sarcasm, by the way.
No,
There's
no.
real things to care about. But anyway, but actually, I should mention Trump because there's so many people amongst us who are concerned about the future of our country and and the safety of our democracy.
Yep, yep.
It's such in danger, and it's Democrats, like congressional candidate. I get fundraising texts. I see ads for Biden. Come on, folks, we got to
That's
beat
right.
Trump and his cronies. We got to protect our democracy.
It's,
They are going to ruin everything.
yep.
Destroyed, destroyed.
It's the only way to
And
hold
civil
back
war will
fascism is
ensue. We're crossing the
go harder.
Rubicon every
Yeah.
4 months. The Rubicon has been crossed.
Right.
Chopper Drop House was making this joke.
Yeah.
But it's always this cycle is the most important
Most
election
important
because
of our
our
lifetime.
democracy
Yeah.
is at stake.
Every time.
The only time that wasn't was 2000, when actually a lot seemed to be at stake, but only post hoc. Only after the fact did the 2000 election matter.
Right.
Um, because certainly Gore didn't seem to care.
Oh no,
But
he folded like a cheap suit as soon as
he didn't
uh,
want to
there was any pushback.
divide the country because the most
Yeah,
important
yeah.
thing, especially from the Democrats, it's
Unity.
interesting,
Yes.
and why I'm very sarcastic about them saying how dangerous the threat to democracy is they think that democracy is when everybody is nonpartisan is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah, yeah.
fact that that there are actually differences in the parties, if there even are to be superficial ones,
Mm-hmm.
cultural ones. This this is what's the danger is from that. And it's
Right.
it's only the right and the Republicans who are dividing us. We're not dividing us because
No,
obviously
we're
we will do
uniters.
whatever the Republicans want. We will do whatever the right ones, but when we propose it, they don't want to do it
Imagine
because they
that.
still want to be in charge apparently.
Yeah.
Um or it's everyone's stronger in opposition until they actually have to govern and then they get blamed, so and no one ever actually wants to be blamed. So you want
Yep.
to be in opposition but also
Yeah.
be in the government. It's interesting dichotomy, and it's
Right.
also across all kinds of bourgeois democracies, even parliamentary ones, where you have parties that actually don't really want to win because if they do, then they actually have to govern and be
Right.
blamed. At least that's the analysis from South Africa's election that just occurred,
Mm-hmm.
where the AMC finally like actually lost support to more left wing parties. In fact, the actual Marxist one. Um, because but it's like it was brought up like do these other parties really want to win? Because once you're governing, you do get blamed for everything, and in South Africa's position right now is really tough. Like everything is bad. It's a real like clusterfuck of social issues and economic issues. So no, but it's the sort of thing where you have to go all in if you're going to take charge and not just like patty cake around, but then you have, well, the way society works, if it's corrupt or whatever. Anyway, um, Civil War on the horizon, always on the horizon, and fear of Americans even before 2000, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the culture war kind of started in, well, as soon as the Berlin Wall fell down, if you want to be romantic about it. And but that's not true, because you can say the culture war started in the 60s, but obviously it just wasn't framed as culture war because it was only with mass media and postmodernism that culture was more important than politics and economy. Because as the world hegemon, there really is just one economy, and there's no discussion of changing that because we are on top in the hegemon. But that hasn't been the case since 2000 or 2006 in particular. Economic power has shifted to the Eastern Asia.
Yep.
But anyway, here we have a piece of a kind of bad movie, made for TV movie. I think it's an HBO movie from 1997, The Second Civil War. And we're going to do some Mystery Science Theater or riff tracks, that we're not comedians. So maybe this is just more of a reaction. This is just a reaction because
There we go.
I'm not actually. I only watched a few minutes of this, and it was Looney Tunes. And definitely kind of cold water or hot water, whatever kind of water, to throw on the fears that people have about a civil war today, like next year or whatever, because it's just really done. It's a very misinformed idea that there's a real danger of civil war, though usually, like, say, the Tim Pools and such will qualify with, like, well, it won't be like a military conflict, but it'll be violence in the streets and, I don't know, civil unrest. But how does the civil unrest manifest? Right. Will it be against the government? Well, it will just be between people, like Bleeding Kansas, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was kind of actual class war between people who owned more land and people who owned less land.
People who owned more slaves and wanted to continue expanding,
yes,
and people that were not wealthy enough to do so.
Though that wasn't the case in Kansas, but you had people who wanted to bring slaves there.
They wanted to bring slaves there.
They had the land to work it with slaves.
They allowed Kansas to vote on whether or not to allow slavery in the new territory. So yeah.
And that was contentious as hell.
Yep.
And the incidenting, the engaging incident causing the American Civil War, which, when we were not a hegemon yet, we were still an emerging power.
Yeah.
Was the election of a third party candidate, Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
So I guess that's why, like, we can't let third parties gain any traction, because if one of us won, that would be the cause of this second Civil War. But keep in mind that the Civil War was, in the long term, like, we came out much stronger. It was necessary, you could argue, for America to be a global power, to go through the Civil War, come out much stronger.
Yeah.
And basically in the position to supersede England, the UK, as global hegemon. And
that's fair.
And maybe, and it's not like when a country loses their hegemon status, they don't descend in the Civil War. It's not happening in the Netherlands. Didn't happen in the UK. When did the UK last have a civil war? The Renaissance, if I recall. They didn't have a civil war after the War of the Roses or whatever. The Glorious Revolution, I think it was called.
Yeah, that's good.
And
that's a question,
actually. I don't know my English history, but the point is, they haven't had one the last few hundred years, despite plenty of political crises. But in the same way that, like, it's like a sensationalist narrative to say that we're in a political crisis when our political establishment chugs along so smugly and securely. like what threat are they under, right? What rising alternative is there to the elections, no matter how not insecure, but the how unrecognized they become by the public. Half of Americans don't recognize elections as legitimate. That's the word I want. No matter how illegitimate they become, the people who vote, even if it's just 20% of the electorate, they're still choosing the government, and we still have a democracy as long as that's occurring, and the winner is certified. And a little riot didn't stop the count, doesn't stop the certification. It was a 1-day disruption, and I guess the fear is that there will be a week-long disruption next time. And then you'd call in the National Guard, and the disruption is swept away, and if business as usual will continue. It'll certainly make East Asians nervous. I mean, they've been nervous since 2015.
Well, shoot. There we go. Looks like you're back.
Yeah, it was completely dropped. It was just that one tab that crashed. There was definitely call. But anyway, enough of the intro. My little connection. Let's get going. Reacting to the Second Civil War. We'll see some familiar faces, I'm sure, on TV. We're both millennials who know our '90s TV, right? Not live action.
Indeed.
I wasn't watching. I was pretty bored by live action TV. So this is definitely why I didn't watch this as a kid. I was let's see, 97. I was 9. But anyway, the context. Here's the cultural context. This was probably a year or so after Waco, and the Oklahoma City bombing was 96, I think. And or was it after? Maybe this was before. But there was definitely in the 90s a pervasive unshackling of reality. It was definitely within the 90s, you actually had the reality that people, because not just, it wasn't caused by media, but it was caused, damn it, I have to go to my notes from a book about the 90s that I read a month ago. But you were starting to see that people could watch the happening of Waco and come to wildly different conclusions because of the ambiguity that the government presented, that it was clear they were bullshitting, and that there was, and certainly the media, journalism, couldn't get to the bottom of it. So there is no consensus about what reality was. And that kind of uncertainty means people will come to their own conclusions based on their own biases, especially when there's no definitive narrative to go off of, right? It's true postmodernism, and that all realities are legitimate, whether it be the right wing or the liberal. So in that context, where reality starts to break down and cable companies start to realize that people actually watch the news for its entertainment value more to be informed. So it's well, why do we care about informing anybody? People buy newspapers to read the sports section. So let's just keep cutting the local beats.
Mm-hmm.
It's not why people are buying the paper.
Yep. It's not so. All right, well, let's get into the movie. And
Phil Hartman as the president.
Yeah, Phil Hartman. Bo Bridges. Well, let's see how this goes. Cutting edge special effects.
Oh, yep. Serious military. America. God save her again. This is when they still did credits before the movie started.
Yeah, you had to actually sit there and wait for it to begin.
Oh yeah, Ron Perlman's in here.
Oh, nice.
Basically playing himself. Sometime near here. That's now. That's now. And these messages with their open plan office space. News. Ready for some news? News is action packed. These are newsmen in action.
Mel, can I get you to prove this?
Now, which one?
This one? Come on, people. What have you done for me lately, huh?
Good night, Mel. Read him a week.
Where's Boise?
I don't
See
have
Boise? Where's Pakistan?
I've done all these.
Come on.
Well, baby, you're gonna just love today.
I better, Alan. I don't see much teamwork. Caroline, my coffee is
We
cold.
tell ourselves we are after the truth.
Don't you see how collaborative I'm being right now?
We deal in
That's
facts.
right.
And yet, for those of us who've been in my business long enough, we are haunted by the realization that the facts alone don't always lead to the truth.
From the White House after the speech, okay? No
Isn't there a
spin.
similar character in the
Not
News of
tolerating
War
any
movie?
spin whatsoever.
Elderly
Where's
black journalist.
Boise?
Like most
Lots
of
of
the
kids
really
about-
important stories we covered,
Boise,
this one,
Idaho,
the biggest armed
where the
confrontation
action's
in
at.
America since the Civil War, started with seemingly unrelated incidents that at first went almost unnoticed and then spun out of control.
Most of you know
Not like
Governor Farley's
slavery.
on his way back from Washington.
Slavery was also an
He'll be
underground
addressing you
issue.
at some point later today
Similar.
or tomorrow.
Very niche.
However, he has authorized me to make the statement on his behalf. Effective immediately, the state of Idaho is closing its borders, if necessary by the use of force. I have ordered our state troopers to set up checkpoints on the
Jimmy
borders,
Cannon.
and no one will be allowed in without authorization from the Idaho authorities.
Straight shooter.
There'll be no questions at this time.
He's closing the borders, people. Thank God for arrogance, lust, and greed, or we'd all be doing commercials. Let's go, people. I smell a 20 share. Where the hell is Pakistan? Where's the White House? Do we still have a White House, or is Tokyo foreclosed on it?
Coming up.
We'll return to Boise momentarily. Meanwhile,
Yeah, because
developments in
Japan
Pakistan
was
are-
overcoming us economically. And Japan was like who we
Uh-huh.
were afraid of as overtaking us.
Yeah, that was the boogeyman foreign power of the day. Yeah.
Well, not boogeyman, but just like, it was like kind of both. It was anxiety. It wasn't a fear, but an anxiety.
Sure.
are continuing.
strange, 'cause this is
More orphans
after
are
their
being
economic
assembled
crash.
for the flight to America. It is now 38 days since the event that started it all. The nuclear explosion from the Indian missiles that devastated over 10,000 square miles of the area around the Pakistani capital of Islamabad. At the Peshawar airport in northern Pakistan, the first of several plane loads of children orphaned by the atomic
Camels.
blast is
They have a
preparing
lot
to
of those in
leave.
Pakistan.
Destination, Twin Falls, Idaho.
As far as
The
Because
rest
they're
of the
Islamic
mission
country,
is
and if
supervision
you're
of Amelia
Islamic, you have
Sims,
camels.
Yeah,
head of the
camels.
controversial
Gotta go.
Give to the
Yeah.
Children Corporation.
The native camels.
However, as we've just reported, Governor
Can you pause
Farley
again?
has closed the border.
So another 90s bit of context is that in the 90s, or I don't know how, I guess I don't know my late 20th century Asian history, but India and Pakistan were way more like rivals, and there was tensions around the border,
Yeah.
and other types of. I mean, I guess this goes back to independence, I suppose,
Right.
the bad blood between them, and so they both being nuclear powers. There was anxiety also that they were having their own little Cold War of sorts, or at least they had their missiles pointed at each other. I remember in the 90s when Michael Moore had a TV show for a season or two, he did an episode. It's
yeah.
like, we need to teach Indians and the Pakistanis how to be prepared for a nuclear war. And so he went to both countries to a classroom and teach them how to duck and cover. And basically the futility of
The
being
Cold War
prepared for
stuff.
nuclear war.
Yeah.
Is the joke, but So yeah, but that's the extent of my pop culture knowledge of it. And so apparently it actually came to a nuclear exchange for some reason. Usually, it's in the north with it's still going actually. I mean, I don't know if it's that hot right now, but with the north of shit, what's it called? It's been a while since I've looked at it, or it's been mentioned. So I suppose that means it's not hot right now. But in North India, you have the Sikh population. What's it called? Starts with P, I think. It's the north area that has a separatist strain to it. Right. Anyway,
I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head.
I guess.
All right.
Order of that state. As politicians maneuver behind the scenes to avoid a crisis, a confrontation seems increasingly inevitable. The governor's press secretary has said that no one will be allowed in without permission from the Idaho authorities.
So apparently, all of these Pakistani refugees, they're going to Idaho.
I guess so.
By the way, there were plenty of Pakistani immigrants, and they opened Indian restaurants, and it's great. That was happening in the 90s, and we were like, "Wow, his Indian food's fucking great." at least here in the Eastern Seaboard,
Sure.
where they were actually invading, I guess. And this was, I guess, some other anxiety, which I just totally didn't feel, because to me it was just another color in the melting pot.
Right.
Buying up bodegas and kicking out in good American bodegas. Mom and pop convenience stores. Anyway.
Do it, we're losing them.
Don't tell me this, people. Not today.
We seem to be having problems with our fixture.
Go to the White House. Go.
You fix it.
We apologize for the technical difficulties. Stephen Kingsley is standing by at the White House with a live report.
Helena, Matthew, we've just seen an indication
that's a
of the
Stephen
way the White
Kingsley.
House is handling these events. When Jack Buchan, high-powered lobbyist and unofficial public relations advisor to the president, arrived here. As president of Cathers and Hilton, the huge Washington PR firm, Buchan is not a member of the cabinet. But in times of extreme crisis, he is often seen around the White House.
So what do the polls say?
I guess he's our
52%
Buchanan
are in
stand-up.
favor of strong action. There is no other kind. Idaho will be stopped.
I want those orphans in there.
Yes, sir.
What did the polls show in Florida? Florida was the swing vote in the last election.
In Florida, only 38% are in favor of strong action, and most of them are over the age of 75. Statistically, most of them will be dead before the next election.
Dead supporters are the worst. I mean, they take up a ton of your time, and then where the hell are they when you need them?
Shit. So, what do we do?
Sometimes the best action is no action.
Well, nobody believes in action more than I do, Mike.
Mr. President, I think the answer is to move the whole damn thing up to a new paradigm. Like, I'm talking about moving it on to the image level. Now, that's my business. I know image. And the great thing about image is that you look like you're doing something strong, but you don't necessarily do it. That way they nail you and poof, there's nothing to hit.
And?
I got him, Mel, I got him back. The first plane load of orphans is in the air. It's when we put Tony Phillips on. But they may have
I want those orphans in there. So here's the crisis. The president is shipping by plane Pakistani orphans from a nuclear war to Idaho.
It's Idaho.
It's the parallels are scary to today's times, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Only it's red states sending planes and buses of migrants and refugees to blue states.
Martha's Vineyard, yeah.
And they're going
for political
and the
points.
president here is too far. He's a tyrant because he's sending them not to metro areas but to Idaho, where obviously, there is a lot of space there.
There's a lot of space there, yeah.
For orphans.
For sure.
Okay. Any thoughts yet?
No, it's
letting it roll.
Yeah. Let's see what the big.
I did like that joke about like you spend all your time trying to get their support, and then they go and die.
And then they go and die. They don't come through for you.
I hadn't heard that.
Please. What is our 20 at JFK, please?
Yeah,
they're wild and crazy kids.
Yeah, right. They look super traumatized by their war-torn country.
Don't they?
Toilets are not working, okay? So what?
You think there'd be more caregivers or chaperones
Right?
of some kind?
Let me ask you something.
From the
Do
orphanage
you want to land at
for
JFK in the middle of the afternoon when
I
nobody
think
is
so.
watching and maybe get a 1.2 share? Or do you want to land at JFK prime time in the morning and perhaps garner a 28 share? Which one, Tony?
Mel, I'm telling you, this is a flying planelet of shit.
Tony, this is the biggest story in the last half century. And you are the human side of it, okay? So whatever you have to do to keep those kids up there, stick a cork up their asses, you do it. Do you understand?
Hey, Mel.
What?
Idaho's coming in.
We apologize again for the technical difficulties. We'll return to the orphans remaining at the Pakistani airport for their flight to America.
Excuse me, Helena. We have just received word that Governor Farley will be returning to the State House momentarily. And as you know, the governor is expected to make some sort of statement within the next 24 hours. And he is certainly one of the more controversial governors in this country. Once known for his liberal views, Jim Farley has been criticized for playing to his state's conservative majority. And indeed, Governor Farley's approval ratings have jumped 12 percentage points since he adopted his bold anti-immigration stance, an outgrowth of his successful re-election campaign, which played to a theme that still resonates today.
America, as it should be.
Governor Farley has just arrived on the steps of the Capitol. Let's switch there now, live.
Okay, line up the reacts from the White House. Tell Kingsley to get the president.
Who's advising Biden?
Get the president, like in send out a search party?
No one asked him that. They assume the president is a man. Thinks for himself.
Yes. The universe shall unfold as it does, ladies and gentlemen. Governor, stay out.
Alan.
Governor, answer the question.
Alan, I can hardly hear you. The balloon's going up.
I know, you'll be hearing from me soon on the matter. Yes, you will.
This is what it comes down to. One guy controls the fate of the whole damn country.
You've all been very understanding. Yes,
Isn't that how people treat the president?
guaranteed.
Pretty much, yeah.
My life is out of control. Christ. She hardly acknowledges I'm alive. You saw her out there. It's like I'm a goddamn window. She looked right through me.
But, Governor, I don't know if this is really the time to let her be getting you like this. I mean...
What the hell is it with women? Christ. Doesn't going to bed and fucking your brains out mean anything anymore?
Well, Governor,
that's how you know this is HBO.
To cut you another way
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they can use the F word.
Plenty of cocktail waitresses you ain't been through down there.
So adult.
I want Christina. What is it with her? She knows I can't leave my wife.
Well, Governor, you got a crisis to handle, and she knows damn well you do. I mean, that's the problem with women. Never listen to reason.
Governor, the White House just called.
God damn it, get the hell out of here. This is important.
We're talking about women.
That's right.
White House. Look, Governor, I'll see what I can do to get her
It
thinking
doesn't he
straight
play
again.
some
But right
character
now,
in
you
West
gotta get
Wing?
yourself
Or,
ready to go out there in front of
or
the
just
whole
other
damn country tomorrow.
Politics is just another
Probably.
form of
Definitely is
sex.
the type.
You know that, don't you?
Jim, I need you to do Mel, I just got through to Tony Phillips. I'm gonna go out to JFK and meet the plane in the morning.
I need you here.
Yeah, but I do better work out there.
Jim, I don't want better work, okay? I need grab him by the throat news. All right? Haven't you noticed ethics and taste are passé history? This is not the 90s anymore, Jim.
Mel, you're living proof of it. Tony Phillips is holding on line 5.
You know something?
Oh, right, because
I
this is in
told
the
you
near
was
future.
future.
This is in the aughts.
Let me
That's
explain.
right.
When I was in JC,
When there was an
I used to
actual,
watch you on
like,
ABC,
yeah.
and I'd say,
Yeah.
look at that dignity and class. Maybe you could be in news without being a single cog in some son of a bitch corporate structure.
It goes to show
You know,
that
it
the
was
problems
an
of the
icon.
90s
You suckered
are
me
not
in.
the problems of
I'm
the
gonna get you for that, Jim.
Mel, you have
of
many
the actual
times.
21st century.
Tony, it's Jim again.
Just a minute. Jim, hold on.
We will not be silenced by some ridiculous need for prime time.
Tony, grab yourself a barf bag and put His First Amendment on the line.
It's Mel Burgess, our executive producer. Wants to talk to you. I'll wire to the...
Having quite a ride up there, aren't you, Miss Sims?
Mr. Burgess, what is it that you want?
Well, I just wanted you to know if you didn't land in Newfoundland and arrived at JFK in the middle of morning prime time.
Yeah, well, what the hell do I care about prime time?
Miss Sims, let's face it. Right now, you are a two-bit charity, okay? But if you land at JFK smack in the middle of morning prime time and America sees these kids getting off the plane in their wretched state, you will be inundated with money, Miss Sims. You'll be bigger than Save the Children.
Well, that is the most ridiculous thing that I... Did he say bigger than Save the Children?
Everybody's got a magic button. Our job, find it and push it. Okay, Jim,
I
you're
too
it.
find
Off patrol.
this
Get the JFK.
theme of putting money before the children vomit-inducing.
Wow.
Keep them up there for a couple hours until prime time.
Still no word from the White House, but unofficially, one aide has said that, and I quote, strong action will be taken.
Governor Farley won't come to the telephone.
So, what now?
He's getting a blowjob.
Well, if that son of a bitch is going to make the speech I think he's going to make, he could wipe us out. I smell an image deficiency syndrome on our hands.
What the hell are we talking about? Image deficiency syndrome.
If I may, sir, when I set up your election campaign, I knew you'd be elected, like all other presidents, because of image. Now, no disrespect, sir, but the American people vote for the sizzle, not the steak. It's only afterwards the poor bastards have to bite into that fat and gristle.
This is not about image.
I beg your pardon, Warren. Mr. President, we're dealing with something a hell of a lot more than just messy reality here. See, at my shop, we represent everyone, from the Apple Growers Association to the government of Zimbabwe. And I've got a dozen clients who are going to load their collective pants if that son of a bitch even looks like he's going to run circles around us.
No one's going to run circles around us, Jack.
Exactly. Now, we have an election next year. And unless you keep that in mind, when it's over, this president could be out building houses for the poor like Jimmy Carter.
I've never even fixed a faucet.
Jim's at JFK.
Hang in there, Jim.
Idaho's coming up. Farley's about to make his speech.
Christina, stay with him all the way up to the podium, okay? You stay with him.
Well, he's not even here. He's still upstairs. It's gonna be a feeding frenzy down here.
You see, Governor, you gotta look at this as an opportunity, not a problem.
I don't see this as much of an opportunity, Jimmy.
So I guess
Hell, she's talking
we
about
are
wanting to get transferred out of
viewing this
state.
as a satire, right? This is like I'm not sure if this was made.
I'm not quite sure how they're trying to play it.
It's got jokes, right?
Yeah, there's jokes, but is that just like?
Is that just to show how callous?
Yeah, yeah.
Show
It's
how
just
callous
add
the
to
advisors are,
right?
Because you don't. No, you have the timing with the barf bag and stuff. Like, it's telling jokes, but we'll see how it's like. We'll see how this plays out. Because I feel like somewhere like it's meant to be taken seriously, but maybe we follow this up with whatever we can find about this movie and people's reaction, maybe reviews of it at the time.
Yeah.
See what we can find. Use the Wayback Machine.
Yeah. Oh man.
The internet did exist in '97 in some form. But it's interesting to think that it's in the mean bait of boomers, I guess, that they seem to think that the internet started and was mass adopted much earlier than it seemed, because it didn't really get full normalization of sorts until after 2000, or especially at 2004. Web 2.0,
right?
Because the meme was like, oh, these millennials, using the word millennial, still treating us like we're the kids. Don't understand what this is, and it's a picture of library catalogs, and the meme is like, this was the internet for us.
Yeah, we like.
Actually, no, it's a database.
Right.
but it shows how much you know. But
Yeah.
It's like, did they not know that us millennials, we grew up with the analog stuff until it was fully integrated? Like, you know, you
Right.
still have
Yeah.
city governments that are just getting.
I remember card catalogs. I remember, all
Yeah,
that sort
didn't
of
have
thing.
to use a lot of it, but you
Yeah.
know, in elementary school, and I think by high school, I think maybe there was a web catalog, but
Right.
I don't recall what the anyway. Fuck.
I remember them switching
No,
over to the
we
web
had web
card.
catalogs in the aughts.
Yeah.
But the point is that as kids, we grew up in the analog, but it was in transition.
We certainly did,
So
yeah.
if you were in a good school district, there was a computer lab with Netscape Navigator on the on the iMac,
Netscape,
which
that's
I
right.
had. I went to a magnet school. We actually had a full computer lab and computers in every classroom. Very rare at the time.
Oh yeah, I don't think we had computers in every classroom, but we certainly had. They call
Yeah.
it the media center, and it was like
Yeah,
computers.
yeah. I mean, it
and
was like 5
books,
of them,
and,
4 or 5 of them arranged in a half hexagon.
Yeah, I think
They
we
would
had enough
have
for a whole class to
they'd
be
have
there
Number
at the same
Cruncher,
time.
Oregon
Yep,
Trail,
there
and a
you go.
bunch of other '90s type of multimedia
Right.
toy softwares.
For sure.
You make music makers.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
This whole pacing and tone of this so far is very Aaron Sorkin like. I would have to say, like, this is the Newsroom and The West Wing, like, just jammed together.
Slammed together.
Yeah,
right.
right.
That's why I was my thing about the news.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
that's how
happening. People are moving, and they got.
That's
serious
how
risks.
Chapo Trap House makes fun of the Newsroom.
Right.
It's like action, adventure, drama, the news.
Right.
Like the news people are the most important people.
Oh, of
and
course,
are
yes.
the luckiest people in the world.
Uh-huh.
But the West Wing, I think, was running at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Though they
yeah.
probably got a lot of influence from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But to think that a mere 15 years after this, that you'll have Beep. just think about that as this goes on. Now that's presidential satire.
Right.
And
I mean, that's so much better.
And that show I find incredibly depressing, though it will get me laughing at times. It's incredibly mean. It's definitely very Gen X humor, and that's just like such mean-spirited cynicism. And I know, like, they love it, but like, you never really see them laughing hard at it, I guess. Well, I guess they do, but I don't know. I guess I have too much hope in my life or something.
Oh, me too.
But I watched 2 episodes of Seinfeld to get a taste for it because I never watched it.
Oh, you never watched it when it was coming out?
No, only the last episode where they get what they deserve, and
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, oh yeah, it's about them being assholes, right?
Oh yeah, they were all terrible people.
Although the finale is them being put on trial for all the horrible people they are, and like, well, why does anyone care about these characters that if they're so horrible? That was my question, being 11. And not
That's fair.
understanding anything about Seinfeld and why it was like everywhere and double syndication. But I watched 2 episodes, and yeah, like it's incredible how all the conflict and like zany situations are just based on the fact that the characters are insecure douchebags.
Right.
And if they had any backbone, moral center, or whatever, then there would be no zany situation or little drama. Like, it's a little, I mean, I know it's a little, half the humor just comes from like the little inconveniences of New York living.
Right.
There's I watched the episode, so I watched 2 episodes. One where it involves Elaine's dad, who's this like gritty conservative writer who just talks about like being a World War II vet, or he's like his world centers on it, and he makes Jerry and George really uncomfortable. They don't know how to interact with him or make conversation because they find him so intimidating. But the subplotter is Jerry got this nice suede jacket, and he paid a lot for it. Like, literally, everyone's like, he has everyone play a guessing game. They ask, like, how much you pay for this?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, You don't want to know. It's like, was it over 600?
Yeah.
700?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you paid 800 for this. It's just like,
just keeps going.
Won't
up,
say.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the lining is like candy striped. So in order to save the suede, because it's raining, he turns it inside out, and the father literally says, "You're not going to walk next to me wearing that. You have to turn inside out," and it ruins the suede. And so he gives it to Kramer, who he gave his old coat, but then he doesn't ask Kramer back for his old coat now that he's giving him the suede coat. and that's Jerry Seinfeld's comedy that of course we millennials just don't fucking appreciate.
I mean, I like Seinfeld even back then. I still appreciate it somewhat now.
Okay, then never mind.
I mean, there are definitely better shows than Seinfeld too, and stuff that came after that followed a similar structure, like Always Sunny or something that did everything better. But
there's the whole fact that like Cloisterman would write about in his book about pop culture villainy that like Seinfeld made it normal to be villainous, like it normalized everyday villainy.
Yeah, just like
meaning like being an asshole was cool because Seinfeld was funny, but like you're meant to laugh at him. I would hope. And then the rest. Okay, because usually in sitcoms, you're actually meant to feel something for the characters, and
right. Yeah,
but in Seinfeld, probably the first time where it's like you're actually like you could care less, right. And that was the big joke is that it doesn't matter what's on TV. It's
right.
It's whatever's on, and so when people treat Seinfeld like that, like, well, you don't care about anything, so why should we care about what you produce or your shows? Anyway, he has his fan base, so I don't know what he's complaining about.
No, all right, getting back to it.
So there you go now, huh? You stand up there, you make that speech in a few minutes, she's gonna be watching you like a hound in heat.
You really think so?
You're goddamn right. I mean, women love power.
Is the point of he's doing all of this for a woman?
I mean, how could you do this to me?
It kind of seems that way so far.
Just last Friday.
Yeah.
Right here in this office.
Definitely seems like satire.
On that damn couch you're sitting on right now.
You're no counting for loyalty these days, huh? Oh, by the way, your wife called.
Cover for me.
Plane full of orphans, 1 hour out of JFK.
So, Caroline, you want to be in the news business? Start
It's just one plane of orphans.
Electronic
I guess
training.
so.
This is the thing that causes the second Civil War.
Foley in
Plane
the White
full
House.
of
All we do is
brown
put them on the
skinned
same
orphans.
track and let them head towards each other.
But they're going to JFK, not
Yeah, I don't get that part. Like, are they told them being bused there or what?
And I'm telling you, she's gone. She's here. She's here. Let's just.
They didn't set up that he wants to run for president, right? They had some other guy who was the opponent.
Morning. You all know that I've just ordered the borders of Idaho to be closed. Now, this action is being implemented to preserve our way of life, the American dream, that has been falsely and cynically held out to the entire rest of the world, which has grown by 1 billion people in merely the last 10 years. Count them, folks. 1 billion. Standing room only from Maine to California. And by allowing the stampede of whatever you want to call them, immigrants, refugees, illegals, legals, migrants, aliens, you name it, we are being swamped. And we are destroying our own way of life. At a time when the business community has presided over the wholesale destruction of our manufacturing capability. Shipped it overseas.
I don't
in the
know.
name of efficiency.
I liked him better when he was a blonde.
Shh. We are told that we have to stand by and let the rest of the world flood into America.
Stay with these kids. What? Hello?
So not the business community. They're not the source of
I
ire.
don't see. Oh,
Yeah.
Is that? Hi. Are you with Newsnet? I'm Amelia Sims.
Newsnet control room. Tony's in pretty bad shape.
That's why you're there, Jim.
Good, honey. Okay. This one too. All of these are orphans.
Folks, America is no longer.
Gotta make that clear. Gotta keep reminding
If it ain't
them.
on the screen, it ain't happening. Let's go. Bring it in. Come on.
Stand by and affix.
Yes.
And now, this
Come on.
group of activists who have decided on their own to bring into Idaho thousands and thousands of these unfortunate Pakistani children who've been orphaned by that terrible war, have in effect told us, the government and the people of this state, to mind our own business. Well, as it turns out, that is exactly what I intend to do. I mean, I was not elected by the people of Idaho.
Boing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's actually
What is
like,
happening?
To preside over the dissolution of our way of life. Therefore, I am taking control of all matters related to our own borders and to immigration and citizenship.
This is unconstitutional. You can't do this.
I just have. Thank you.
Come on, Christina, stay with the governor. God damn it, the governor's the center of the whole thing. Going closer. Closer.
Closer, and I'd be going down on him.
What was the question, Miss Fernandez?
Christina, stay with the governor.
why did they all go quiet?
What's going on with her? She's always right on top of him.
Tim. Hey, Trey. No, come on, sugar. I don't mean any harm. I just thought you might want a little quality time to patch up this little lover's tiff that you and him had.
Mr. Cannon, I don't need you to sort out my personal life.
Oh, come on, darling. Hey, I'm just trying to be a friend here, okay? And he is crazy about you. You know that.
No, please. It was an affair, okay? Let's just keep it at that. Right now, I just need to remember that I'm a reporter and get on with my life.
You know, I'm always amazed at how wrong I can be. You know, hell, I figured you really had a thing for him.
Are you aware that I was born in Mexico? See, I came here when I was 3 years old. That makes me an immigrant. He wants to keep people like me out, so I'm out.
Aren't you taking this a little personally?
I hope so.
He wants to marry you.
Yeah!
He what?
What? Why would this stop?
Look, the budget is all blown to hell.
What?
Why can't we take at least
Wait,
I'm led with those darned orphans.
that made her go, well, wait a second.
Oh, he wants to marry me. Well, let me just put my morals aside. Oh.
What the fuck? I guess we'll see how this plays out. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Oh, man.
Didn't read the inter-office memo.
When I started out as a reporter, the world seemed more remote, and news came
I
at us
forgot he's
slower
the narrator.
in ways we could absorb. We never dreamed of satellite feeds or live reports from distant lands. But now, Idaho and Pakistan might as well be right next door. The entire world is swarming into our video monitors, as well as into the towns and cities of America, and it's changing us all.
Yeah,
And
Afghanistan.
you tell yourself you're a pro, that
Ground
you can
Zero.
handle the passions and tensions without letting your
All
own
right
feelings
next
get
door.
in the way. At least that's what you tell yourself.
This network, isn't that worth a little bit of money? What do we got in the White House? Hiya, Sandy. Still nothing, the scum buckets.
They're your people.
Oh, bullshit, Alan. All right, stop. What about the backgrounders? We got one running right now.
Okay. I want backgrounders on everything. Environment, immigration, refugees, the whole 9 yards, okay? Blitz it.
The 3 freighters filled with Albanians fleeing the Russian conflict have been refused entry at the already crowded port of Charleston, South Carolina.
Ignore the fact that the economic infrastructure of every American city is crumbling.
We did
It's
have
not the fault of the
Albanian
refugees.
refugees.
Yeah.
But they were Kosovo.
The crisis began when 3 million starving refugees fled Fijian province. The pesticides that seeped through the water
Human
table
beings
poisoned
let it get out of control. This is not some act of God.
They had their worst famine in the last 150 years, for Christ's sake. Could I have a glass of milk with this, please?
There's no way I'm going to let Idaho go like other small population states like Rhode Island. which became almost totally Chinese in 6 years when it was swamped by refugees.
Millions of Chinese settled in Rhode Island in the same presidential election year when the controversial Department of Ethnic Affairs was created.
So it's our fault they cut down all their forests or breed like rabbits and they want to come to America?
Talk to me about breeding. I'm eating here.
I'm not talking about breeding. I'm talking about the social situation on the planet,
Agents
idiot.
of the U.S. Border Patrol have been unable to stem the unprecedented numbers of Salvadorians flooding into the USA.
The Chinese item will let on, but drop any Latin stuff. We've got too many Hispanic advertisers.
For Christ's sake, are we still a news organization or are we the home shopping network now?
Chris, don't bite the hand that feeds you, which happens to include Hispanic advertisers.
The country is,
But not China.
Es muy
Yeah.
fucked up-io. Can you network guys understand that?
You've got an attitude problem. I find this impassioned tone of yours very offensive.
I'm offensive? Jesus.
Africa's a mess. Use the last Rwandan massacre. There are no Rwandan
Third
advertisers.
time in recent years, the people of Rwanda are being massacred at an alarming rate. Entire villages have been wiped out.
Heads up, everyone! Orphan alert!
JFK's coming in. Second batch of Pakistani orphans, runway 23. And what have you done for Mel lately?
To runway 23 at JFK International.
So,
Airport.
how on a scale 1 to
News
10,
next.
how cringe was that conversation?
I just see. Oh,
Does it make you? What are we feeling from that? Because
have the writers
it's
ever
a little
listened?
icky.
Yeah.
I-
Well, like they shoehorned every little
Yeah.
like bit of their own commentary into it until like no one was having a real conversation. It's like, have they heard people speak to
Like
each
the
other
West Wing,
before?
right?
Yeah. yeah.
But it's
kind
it's
of.
just the whole. It's the It's a good simulation or simulacrum, I guess,
Mhm.
of the feeling of watching cable news, where it is a drumbeat where you'll get in succession every international problem or conflict zone like in a row all at once.
I can see that. Yeah.
And then maybe you'll get some human interest story with puppies at the end. But the whole that the reactionary will be outraged about all the stuff happening, but not really able to articulate why. Like, what is the harm being done to Rhode Island? The fact that it's now, let's take it at face value. It's majority Chinese, ethnic Chinese immigrants in Rhode Island, and
yeah, right. Oh,
so
it's destroying
it's
our way of life.
Now, yeah, and so you're right. Yeah, it's destroying our way of life, which is, of course, not. It wasn't just the Proud Boys in the 2016 who used that framing. It's as old as the Confederacy.
Yes. Oh, it's always what it is. Yeah.
Or any conservative, really. So, but what am I getting at? I'm just trying to go through my thoughts, run through my mind with that scene of the. Well, I guess the point is that the guy who's offended, right, at the reactionary is only so because of the, and he makes it clear it's about the advertisers. So the whole line about Africa's
cynical.
a mess, play a Rwandan genocide story next, because that's ongoing, and actually, that makes me think of the news story I just saw today about Rwanda funds the rebels in eastern Congo, which is an ongoing conflict zone, creating 1 million displaced people in Congo, because that's where the cobalt is and whatever.
Right.
It's bad, and it's just, no Latin stories. So it's like, but it's again like it's just reporting on the misfortune of others gets other people angry at those suffering, right? That's the assumption, because they're coming to America and that causes white Americans
White
to
Americans
suffer.
just immediately get upset because they're here and not there. Yeah.
Or coming, and the fact that they're coming from all over, where the population went up 1 billion people. That's something that's like, and suddenly, because we're the world hegemon and world police, we're supposed to take care of this?
Yeah.
That we actually have responsibility for any of this? But that's the conservative mind, I guess, that we have all the power in the world and enforce that power over others. And this somehow means, but we're also not responsible for anything.
Right.
It's one of the paradoxes.
Yeah, we have to have it both ways.
We're both always minding our own business,
Right.
just doing what's best for us, but also not responsible for anything that happens.
Right.
And the guy said it like, "Oh, you think it's not our fault the Chinese chopped down all their forests and pollute?" They're not even. They're only halfway industrialized right now. Just wait another 15 years.
Right. Yeah.
But now they're building. You know, they've built more green infrastructure than we ever will. So.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's what makes them the richest, is that they have all this capital to actually build infrastructure. We don't have capital, apparently. Though we do, but it's not. It can't be distributed or used on infrastructure. It has to be used on rockets and Tesla cars, Tesla trucks,
and military,
and what else?
yeah.
and voyages to the Titanic.
Oh. Oh man. All right. Well, let's continue on.
Jim Callis there.
This is Jim Keller for Newsnet, and I'm here with Amelia Sims of Give to the...
Let me just say that we are bringing these children to our shelters in Idaho, come hell or high water, and it's our right. And no governor is going to stop us. Let me just also say that this is...
Stand by, Boise. As soon as we dump JFK, we'll be coming to you.
I love the smell of burning ambition.
Burning what?
Ambition? And let me just also say that the organization...
Of course I care about
donate
those poor
anything, thank you very
Pakistani
much.
orphans, but I don't live in Pakistan. I live here. This is what I'm all about. The American dream.
How come every time I see that guy, I think I'm going to
That's definitely a house in Idaho.
Yeah, right.
That's what Idaho looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Folks, the government.
Except it's mountains and prairie. They're gun nuts.
Yeah. So is he the head of this paramilitary organization, or is he just coming to speak to them? That's okay.
I guess they're his base.
I guess he's just arming children now too.
Well, again, the context is that in the 90s there were all these right-wing paramilitary organizations. I don't think I don't know. Well, they definitely lost steam and stopped growing after 9/11, despite you think. But suddenly, that's not, the government wasn't the thing that all the right-wingers were afraid of after, They were really afraid of the government because there was no external threat anymore until 9/11. Then there were external threats again. So the right-wing militias against, and I guess I guess as the Iraq and Afghanistan were winding down or just totally in the background, you get the right or the far right basically get jimming up about internal threats in 2016 or a little before, but in the teens, because
I guess
the 10 years of being afraid of Arabs kind
sure
of its course.
There also was that, I guess it wasn't as widespread though, but that group that the Bundys, the Amon Bundy and company, who they were
the Bundy Ranch,
yeah.
What
So
year was
they
that?
were, that was like, I want to say like 15, 16, something like that.
Was it that long? Oh yeah, in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
15.
2015, 2016, something like that.
But they seem like a remnant,
Right.
Like it wasn't...
Yeah. Like they did their little takeover and then were shocked that the entire country did not care about what they were doing.
Right. And this movie is based on the assumption that actually a lot of people care what these psychos are doing and what their priorities are for their Christian nationalism.
Sure. I guess, like, if Idaho seceded tomorrow, would I really care? I mean,
the only way Texas
I
gets
don't
away
know.
with it because it's the international border.
Right.
Right. It's not the internal state borders.
Yeah.
Like Idaho is acting like they're a border state, though
Well, I mean,
technically
they got that little
with
point
Canada,
that
but they're not coming in through Canada.
no.
I know that little strip, that
Yeah,
one
right.
little point of land, but it's brought in for JFK. So yeah, obviously it's funny that like this Help the Children's charity, their shelters are in Idaho.
Yeah, so
Why are they in
weird.
Idaho?
I guess just because there's lots of land. I don't know. That's weird.
There is a lot of land, and yeah, it's like, look, it's terrible what happened in Pakistan, but I don't live there, so
Yeah.
you know,
So I don't really
go
care.
fuck themselves.
Yeah, right.
Fuck those kids. Yeah, but hey, it's still at least mainstream. It's still pretty normal to basically say like, I don't care about other people, and that's something that'll come up in when anyone's talking in a cynical way about like, I express my socialist opinions, whether it's mask on or off, and I'm told, well, that's just so unworkable because in this society, everyone doesn't care about other people.
Yeah, you didn't
like, well,
factor in human nature.
Well, she wasn't putting it like that, but and I'm just talking about the last interaction I had. But it was more just the whole being a boomer and everyone she knows, who keep to themselves more or less.
Sure.
But are still, charity, sympathetic.
Right. Yeah, charity's the
but it's all the other people who don't know how to work with others or care about others. But I'm sure if I did talk about like, the underclass people, she would start ranting or about crime. Or I didn't go down there. We're in a hospital. It was just a friendly conversation where I mentioned caring about the elderly. And she's like, well, the people in the country do not care about the elderly. Like, I did not argue with her like, well, a majority of welfare spending is on the elderly. But,
yeah, that's true.
What does she mean by we don't care about the elderly? We're not giving her enough respect and listening to her opinion, or like where is she deficient? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people do tend to just stick the elderly in homes and then not think too much about
well, actually, no. She was tying it into a whole young people these days, our kids don't want to take care of us. And I did not throw back in her face that we're poorer than you are.
Yeah.
We're barely taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to take care of others, including our richer parents? Who have, depending on the circumstance, very, secure, like $2 million in savings or retirement, and pensions. Though not a lot of pensions were cut,
right?
So obviously not universal, but so we're talking about a middle class, liberal.
Yeah.
But their numbers are going to decrease over time, and so what's the point of gaining their support if they're, where are they going to be in 5 years?
Yeah,
but
that's true.
This joke about like, what was made in the 90s, you can make it in the aughts about like the right wingers. You just have to wait for them to age out. It's not how politics.
It's kind of true. Yeah.
Well, it's true in that we have the 15-year cultural cycle of zeitgeist, where culture does change rather substantially, every 15 or over 15-year bits. Sure. But that does not necessarily mean the political change or even economic change, because obviously the materialism has not changed. Culture has, but just shows, or it's evidence that culture is downstream from socio-political,
that is a fair point. Yeah.
Local economy.
Yeah.
And not upstream. I don't know, like this, is it just from Gramsci? No, it's from a bunch of the Frankfurt School people. But the whole, like, coming to the conclusion after World War II that culture is upstream from everything else.
Right.
I obviously I think that's a simplification. I don't think that's what they were really saying. They were just making observations that culture is important, that there is a culture industry, and that it played a part in things that that didn't play, or didn't exist before World War One.
Yeah, I would say that material conditions more than anything are going to influence culture. So, like, yeah, you might not have the ranting, racist grandparents around anymore, but their wealth has been inherited by a new generation, which now has a material interest in
Or it was
changing
filtered
the politics.
Yeah. But and their wealth simply flowed to, the 1% via the healthcare industry and insurance and or housing, and their rents and what have you, like my mom. But what was I on about? Sorry, I had a thought, but let's go back to reacting.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Too much commentary here. They look happy
folks,
to see him.
I know y'all want to let the governor know just how much you're supporting him, but if you could just give us a few minutes to discuss some important matters, I'd really appreciate it. Is there a room that we could use?
Why, sure. You can use our bedroom right down the hall. Turn left at the rocket launcher.
Excuse us. Thank you.
Hey, big fella.
Governor, you gotta talk to these people.
Hey.
John, this is getting to be
What's the
too
dog's
much.
name?
What is?
Christina, she's not out there.
And he's still on the woman, of course. Oh, what a run on joke.
Grenades in the bedroom.
Jesus, come get away from there. Look, I got it wired. I talked to the Newsnet people and told them
All
to give
of
her
this
an
happening,
exclusive,
and
so
he's
they're
still
on her to stay
cares
close.
about this thing.
Now let's just think about those people in the next room, huh? These militia folks can come in real handy.
What the hell is this? Bazooms and bazookas?
Maybe ladies' auxiliary.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, if the IDF does it.
I don't know about all this.
Governor, let's just not forget who voted for you, huh? I mean, the whole goddamn state's one big militia now.
Hello, sir.
As Governor Farley avoided reporters' questions on his links with militia groups today,
Don't make any sense. Just because we got a president whose face belongs in the back of milk cartons doesn't mean that the whole goddamn White House got to be quiet. It's fishy.
Steve, smoke him out.
In what amazes most observers here, there's still been no response from the president.
You got the chief of staff. What more do you want?
Same to you. The president's on his way, but before he arrives, there's a few things I want to go over.
Mr. Buchan, since when does a lobbyist set the agenda for the White House?
Mr. Secretary, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that L word you just used. I'm a political facilitator.
You can pretend what you want, Jack, but we're trying to handle a crisis here.
Oh, really, Mike?
Yes.
Well, I think it's time you started
guy
considering that a
plays the
president's first 4-year term is what he's got to put up with in order to get himself elected again.
Tell me something I don't know.
There is speculation that the White House is in some disarray and that the president has become politically immobilized by
What
events
did I
that
tell
are...
you? The bastards are trying to smoke us out. Now, look, people, this president's going to end up as confused as a goat on AstroTurf unless we're careful.
Careful about what?
Well, every president has his foibles. This one just needs a role model, okay? Now, I've been through this with him before. That last crisis, that trade war thing. We got him all fired up over Harry Truman, and it worked. When it ended, I swear I thought he was going to nuke the Japs all over again. On this one, we have to bring him up to something more statesmanlike, like Roosevelt.
Excellent question. What would
Which
Roosevelt have done if he'd had this crisis?
Especially when they're playing the orphan card.
Well, we should be playing our own orphan card.
Exactly.
Sir, what exactly is our orphan card?
Mr. President, it's
They're all looking at him. I mean,
Deadline.
don't be mad when he has answers.
Precisely. It's a deadline we're giving Idaho to get those damn orphans in there. It's 72 hours. No ifs, ands, or buts. Teddy Roosevelt, would have played the orphan card.
Oh, no, Mr. President, I was referring to FDR, Franklin Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt. When he led the Rough Riders over the hill on that charge, when he declared war on Spain? Now that was an orphan
Did I call
card.
this joke or what?
Yeah, right.
Oh, shit.
I know something's going on. I could smell it a mile away. Something's happening. Caroline.
But FDR was a hard. He won the support of socialists and the left by accepting and embracing the hatred of the capitalists.
And he says, Vincent, you belong.
By being very, very fucking partisan. I'm not sure what the statesmanship comes from.
Godfrey,
The
tell me you know
bipartisanship.
something. What's going on?
Of FDR.
BTUs.
Hey, it's a doctor.
This is something I've been doing calculations
Oh,
on for
look,
months.
yeah.
The Pentagon on a normal
Ricardo.
night, taken from the infrared satellite that I got us to buy time on. Do you remember how the 22nd floor didn't want to put money into it? How they said infrared was dead, microwave maybe?
I remember, Godfrey. I was thrilled for you. Go ahead.
On a normal night, the Pentagon gives off a fairly constant amount of heat, about 3.28 million BTUs. That's British thermal units. It's a way of measuring how...
What a BTU is.
But here is how it looked 10 minutes ago. You see this hot spot right here? All the lights and electrical equipment. It added an extra 500,000 BTUs.
So?
Well, I don't have a spectrum analysis. They wouldn't authorize the system upgrade at the last budget
Godfrey,
meeting, so
forget about spectrum analysis. Stay with the BTUs and how they relate to the orphans. That's why we're here.
This is where they plan military operations.
Holy shit.
Look here. North Carolina, half an hour ago. You see this little area right here lit up like an infrared blowtorch?
What about it?
That's Fort Bragg, home of the 173rd Airborne.
Jesus Christ, we're gonna invade Idaho over a bunch of orphans.
Get me to the White House. I don't care if you have to use tear gas to get the
I would start with the National Guard.
Who's at Fort Bragg?
Yeah.
Newsnet has just learned that
Gotta
2
keep the taste of the
battalions
movie
from
going.
Fort Bragg have been put on alert and are preparing to be moved to Utah.
Now that's unconstitutional. I mean, closing the border is unconstitutional, right? Against the 10th
Yeah,
Amendment.
definitely using our
But-
military against the state.
But using the military on U.S. soil is not.
We're in the Eisenhower mode.
Right.
Jack, I think
That's
a great
why.
idea.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
Unless, of course, you want
Eisenhower calming
to detain and
influence.
arrest
Yes, I
terrorists.
thought you'd like that, sir.
And he
terrorist
gave
sympathy.
fabulous
Sure,
deadlines.
Which case?
I
The
saw the
2012.
videos
How
you
about
gave me.
That's what I
NADA.
want to talk to you about, sir.
72
NDAA.
hours, 3 days. Has a nice ring to it.
That's the problem, sir.
What is?
Well, 72 hours. At the end of 72 hours, I mean, falls right in the middle of All My Children.
What the hell is All My Children?
It's a soap opera. I mean, remember what happened last time we preempted those soap operas? Women all over the country went absolutely apeshit. Went crazy.
Jack, let's understand something. I wasn't elected president to sit back and watch the United
By the way,
States
I think he's referring to
disintegrate.
Desert Storm.
Sir, we lost.
So, in order to ensure that everyone loves and believes that America is great at war and strong, and George H. is a great president, strong, and a big boy.
Yeah.
They preempted all broadcasting with live coverage of Desert Storm, and its pageantry and all the and the way it was all scripted. So it was definitely like going into hyper reality mode. Where, by the way, sorry, it's not hyper reality, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, yeah.
But as far as what I was saying about the confusion of media and the satire, obviously this is not the only thing satirizing hyper reality, but hyper reality is where so much of our reality, like let's say, how much of your day is watching other media, right? Other things that are not real. So when more of your reality is made up of experiencing things that are not real or through a media filter,
fictional, yeah.
more of your reality is not reality. And that's what hyper reality is. And most of us are in hyper reality because most of our assumptions about life or cult, whatever, is shaped by TV, movies, etc.
Sure.
Unless, and the weirdos are the ones outside of hyper reality where like they didn't have a TV, they didn't grow up watching a lot of movies, and they're all the reactors now who watch movies for the first time and get clicks that way, and they're fun to an extent.
Gotcha. All right, moving on.
Lost the women's vote last time.
Shouldn't have.
The woman's vote.
It's Susan Lucci's final episode. Now she's about to leave her husband.
Excuse me?
Susan, the star of All My Children. She's about to leave her husband and run off with Antonio.
The gardener?
Yeah.
Erica's running off with Antonio?
Exactly.
So is Antonio.
Would it be possible that for the sake of the country, Erica not run off with the gardener for a few days?
Well, I checked with the network. The episode's already been taped. It airs in 3 days, right smack dab in the middle of our deadline.
Uh-huh.
So 48 hours.
Eisenhower would have changed the deadline. Soap opera, for Christ's sakes.
She's
When
the
does a
statement.
soap opera control the future of the country?
Why do you keep asking me if I love him?
Hey, I'm just trying to help.
Cue the soap opera
Yeah,
music.
the real soap opera.
This is satire. This is
You're
satire.
trying to get me back into something that made me crazy.
Look, I only know what I see. And I see you hurt more now than you ever did before. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. But I know I'm not, darling.
Phone message, Jimmy, code blue.
In a minute.
Go blue. Go blue. Blue balls.
Governor, Ms. Fernandez is here to discuss the Newsnet interview. Which line's code blue? 3.
Oh shit! I forgot.
Hello,
He's in
Mrs.
V.
Farley, how are you?
He's this guy. This guy's
guy
in
is?
V.
No, he
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he plays a
He's
character
behind
in
closed
V.
doors right
That's
now.
why I know.
Mhm.
Oh, that's fun.
Right, it's very important. It's with
He's the chief of staff of
foreign
the
dignitary.
president, and then becomes Julia
Right.
Dreyfus' character as chief of staff.
No problem.
He's like
I'll
the
have fellows go
old
shopping for you.
machine operator guy.
Right.
Sure.
The pop-off vodka.
He represents
Good.
that character. He's the
You're
blank
all
chief
aware
of
of the
staff for a while.
proclamations coming from Idaho, where the governor of the state has said it is his intention to close the borders to a group of refugee children. This action
But he
is
said he also set up
unconstitutional,
checkpoints, so it's
and
not
it represents
just
an illegal
the children.
challenge to the authority
Anyway.
of the federal
Yeah,
government.
the fuck.
Everybody.
You gotta make it about
Christina,
the
I don't care what you
union
have to do to get
and
access to Farley.
10th
do it.
Amendment,
Sure.
commerce.
Christina,
I'm sure this is costing a lot of people's money.
No, I don't believe you anymore. And I don't believe myself anymore either. I mean, what the hell am I doing with a married man?
Eleanor and I have not
Lived as man and wife for 3 years, and she doesn't understand you. And the check is in the mail, and I'm really Irish.
Television is
When
just...
America's in danger of coming apart, we need
I just thought maybe we could go away somewhere for a couple of days. Just get away from all this.
And I'm calling on Governor Farley, who I know is watching this, to recognize the hour of
Christina, where are you? I need a reaction, please. Christina.
Mel, I want to transfer.
Christina, this is not the appropriate time.
I want to go somewhere and have babies and lead a normal, sane life. And I want to get up in the morning and drive kids to school. And I want a husband I can trust.
Please, no mommy sacrifices now. Christina, please.
Or at least it's not the angry boss that threatens his staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was almost half a century ago that another president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, found it necessary to use U.S. troops to enforce the constitutional rights of the federal government when the state of Arkansas refused to obey a Supreme Court order. If necessary, I will do the same. I am therefore declaring a deadline of 67 and a half hours from now.
67 and a
By which
half?
time the state of Idaho must comply
The fuck is that?
with the constitutional prerogatives of the federal government of these United States of America as they were delineated by our founding
What an
fathers
asshole.
and handed down.
That dumb son of a
part
bitch.
of the
Up to his ass in lobbyists and deals to keep himself in power. Now he tries to be Eisenhower. Like a dwarf, trying to be a high jumper. God damn it! How the hell did we let it all get to this? 67 and a half hours, huh?
Of course, that was the National Guard.
Do it. Put up the roadblocks. Oh, and I promised, that Newsnet lady an exclusive.
Governor, you're supposed to brief Colonel McNally, sir, right away.
You know the one.
I have today issued an executive order directing the use of troops under
There have been
federal authority.
comparisons made between the president and former President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
I mean, it is
It was
pretty
in
similar.
1958 that
Yeah, I guess so.
Eisenhower sent in
It was the
troops to
National Guard.
forcibly integrate
I
the
thought it was
public
the National
schools in
Guard,
Little
too.
Rock.
It is a
Observers
National
say
Guard.
that the president's
The military is
actions
not
are-
allowed to
The
operate
whole
on U.S. soil.
country is
Yeah.
tuned in.
They
Meeting
can
is
train,
prime
but they're
time.
not.
For the next 3 days, 24 hours a day.
National Guard
Nobody goes
is for
home.
them.
The beds are on their way.
Now you could say the
Okay,
National Guard
everybody
is
on deck.
is a wing of the
Karachi,
military, of
New
course.
York,
True.
It is
White
the
House,
home guard
Boise.
that enforces
Who's on the Idaho
federal
border?
will.
Vinny?
So.
Vinny Franco?
Yeah.
Dennis Lear.
Oh, he's one of the militia guys. Watching the Duke. He loves the Duke, by the way.
And that John Wayne was a hell of a soldier, huh?
Hey, Vinny, he was an actor.
Bullshit. They put the Duke in charge of Vietnam, we would have been out of that war in a fucking week. Hey, what are you doing during the
Apparently,
sound?
a lot bit of
Blow
his
the fucking
act
speakers
was
out.
like
I didn't.
John Wayne worship. Ah! Fuck your golf course. That's totally a 90s kind of tank that a 90s
Hey.
Army Force would use.
Hey, who are you guys? Who are you?
Who are you?
I asked first.
I ain't telling till you do.
We're a Newsnet crew.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, Sam, it's Newsnet. We're going to be on TV. I'm Arnold Tooney Jr., two O's in Tooney. I own a drugstore in Boise.
Really? Well, I might be slow, Arnold, but where I come from, guys who own drugstores don't drive around in tanks, you know what I mean?
Some of them do. On weekends, at least.
Oh, you're not the Army. You're the National Guard. Idaho National Guard. Oh, fuck. Boys, looks like Idaho's going to war.
My God.
I smell another fucking Emmy.
There are 65 hours left in the president's ultimatum. There now exists the possibility of American troops fighting against other American troops for the first time since the Civil War. Despite a complete press blackout established by the military on both sides, we're expecting exclusive coverage of the tensions on the Idaho border.
That doesn't look like a blackout to me.
The second.
Yeah.
Second Civil War.
Get me graphics.
We would need some kind of.
We have not sought, nor will we instigate any combat situation. But I am hereby serving notice on the federal government that should any armed hostilities break out, the state of Idaho will immediately secede from the United States.
And with Governor Farley's dramatic declaration of secession,
Sounds like a
America
bold
appears to-
strategy, Kai. Let's see how it works out for him.
Yeah.
It's definitely Idaho and the rest of the red belt, I guess.
The mountainous zone.
Well, I think we're about out of time, right?
Yeah.
We're almost halfway through, so this is
Yeah,
good.
it was not bad. We took a big chunk out of it.
So the clip I watched is pretty outrageous, but you basically have the news anchor on the right, the woman we're looking at, basically flip out on air and start like choking the other newsmen for doing his job. It's like, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. So she basically gets Idaho derangement syndrome.
That's hilarious. Oh man. Well, that's a fun movie. It's difficult though because it feels like it can't figure out whether it wants to make serious points or just be kind of wacky and comedic. So it just kind of
that's most satire.
Yeah, but like it can be done. It can be done in a less ham-fisted way than it's being done.
Oh, it's campy as fuck.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see how it plays out. The Civil War between one state versus 49.
Right. Yeah, I can
imagine.
maybe
after that clip, maybe, I don't know, it's like, oh, now there's 20 states that are going to join Idaho, or declaring their National Guard to be, and they're all just going to secede. That's because it's willy-nilly.
That's right.
That's what you do. You do it to keep the immigrants out.
Right. I mean, like
that. Yeah.
That entire half of the country, everything west of the Mississippi could secede, and it would still be a smaller population than everything east of it. So, probably not on numbers alone.
Well, the West Coast would not. The West Coast would not.
And that too, that California probably would not join the secession, or they would secede into their own.
Now, if this was a class war, then it would be up in the air, since
true.
I was City Nerd did a video about the most NIMBY cities, using quite an extensive set of maps, and kind of going off of where basically the least number of the cities over 100,000 or around 100,000 that had basically no growth in housing units, but exponential double, triple growth in the valuation of property. So he was definitely going after the people, the single occupancy homeowners, detached house, suburban houses. And wouldn't you believe it, 12 out of 20 were like the Bay Area. The entire Bay Area, cities that have BART stations and mass transit access, had stagnant new housing growth. They had, in 20 years, some only added a few hundred units. These are cities around the Bay, basically.
Yeah, Oakland, Alameda.
Right, and the housing price and the house prices. So it is people simply using their houses as an asset.
Yeah.
And you wonder why we want to decommodify the housing, because it's odd that even under the auspices of a NIMBY, where like developers, for-profit developers, would be building more housing in these areas, if not for the middle class homeowners using their houses as assets. So simply, they're just being good capitalists. But it's like, which kind of capitalist do you want? Whether it's the capitalist that will build more apartment buildings and put us all in the apartments, or the people who want to own their own home and keep it that way and pass it on to their children. And the house never changes, so the land use doesn't change. It will never be redeveloped, because there are a lot of stories in our reality, pop culture, where the tragedy of the small homes being demolished for big developments.
Yep.
And who are we rooting for if the really we shouldn't root. It's a false choice as far as who's the good guys here. We want to reject these things for
fundamental reasons. Yep. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
All right. So if I'm learning anything, Civil War is right around the corner.
Right around the corner. It just takes one immigrant crisis, a refugee crisis, I should say.
Yes.
And
we've had several. And you know how, every other year we've had another one. And that's just stoking. It's making people anxious.
It's just a matter of time before they pick the wrong state to Dump the refugees on.
And it will be U.S. Army versus National Guard, and that's exactly how the use of force works in America.
Right.
God. Well, yeah, I mean, our army, the military, is completely organized differently. It's organized in a way that a global power is organized. And when we had a civil war, we didn't have no central army. That was the thing. That was the point of it. That you could have locally based, state-based armies. The National Guard is not state-based.
Yeah,
right?
Not exactly,
I mean, technically the governor calls them out, but it's because the president gave him a call. So, or it's federal policy. You know, it's definitely people who are afraid of civil war don't understand, or are have a deficiency in their civics knowledge of how our political economy works.
Yeah, or it's just more profitable to pretend they don't know.
Well, let's say we're talking about good faith liberals and even leftists.
Not the Tim Pools of the world.
Well, it's certainly, and I'm being a little elitist, where it's the people who don't make politics their hobby or vocation or something they really like putting effort into understanding, that are afraid of civil war, or afraid of another Trump victory.
Yeah.
Even though, as far as the vibes are concerned, this is Chapo's argument. The vibes are totally like in favor of Biden, because now even even the fence sitter swing voters view Trump as a loser.
Yeah.
At least in a a network focus group where they're asking their opinions about his conviction, where it's like, yeah, it's a show trial, it's a circus. But the fact that he was even caught and convicted in the first place shows how incompetent he is.
Yeah,
he's a loser.
Reminds me of his quote about John McCain. I like people that don't get caught.
Right, and he got caught.
Yeah.
And because from how corrupt and cynical everyone is, they know how easy it is to get away with murder that even Trump was talking about. And the fact that he couldn't get away with a little bit of money embezzlement,
or
whatever, fraud.
Some bad book.
What a loser.
What a loser.
So, this whole, he has a super base, of course, but they're not what they seem. And a lot of them died from COVID.
True.
The numbers
True that too.
I think the numbers just may not be there. Even if the turnout for Biden is lower, you can assume that. But even so, no matter how low the turnout goes, it's whatever gets eked out in the Electoral College. So, after all, I mean, all those Chinese voters in Rhode Island will probably tip it Biden's way. That's what's funny about it. So, to assume that, let's say Rhode Island's population tripled or something. So I guess they go up to 6 to 7 electoral college votes. Is that how it works? By the way, I've been to Rhode Island. I don't know how. Why did all these Chinese immigrants go to Rhode Island?
I guess the premise is they just pick a state every time there's
right. Yeah, just as the Pakistani orphanages, they picked Idaho.
Yeah.
for their because it's that the logistics works out so well to have to fly not only from Pakistan, foreign orphans, to New York City, then to the far west of the country.
Right. I guess they just had to pick a remote enough state that would seem plausible that it wouldn't immediately get bombarded by Washington.
Was maybe Idaho had the highest militia population?
I mean, they do have a lot of militias out there, and
the right-wing militias,
weird gated communities,
defending themselves from, the return of buffalo.
Yeah,
their population's coming back, Zach. Yeah.
Wow.
Funny.
All right. Well, I do have to wrap it up tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close it up?
Well, I had a successful honk outing at Albany Pride.
It sounds like that was a ton of fun.
We even recruited a person who came by. She's a veteran of another honk band called the Hungry Band or something.
That's cool.
Which shows that they're woke and based. And she wants to play the 90s swing revival music.
Oh, okay.
That's because she didn't get to it in another band, so she's like she wants to push that.
All right.
That's
sure
cool.
It's fun stuff to play, yeah.
And yeah, of course. And yeah, so we're gonna go forward with that, and hopefully, I gotta get to work with the Green Party this month. I'm taking it easy after the petitioning season.
Yeah.
So like I guess July and August I'll hopefully not be doing. I'll get to work and calling and preparing to be in campaign mode in the fall for Jill, regardless of what kind of campaign we're running. Most likely it will be write-in. We were 3,000 short in getting to 45,000 ballot signatures. I don't know if anyone got enough. If RFK got enough, I'm told by a guy I know that the challenge from the Democrats is that the address he put on the petition paperwork is not an address in New York, or it's not his true address. He put the wrong address. So they want to throw out his petitions if he got enough on a technicality. And they can throw ours out because we're 3,000 short, but we do want to sue because of the impediment of such a high petition count. Because other states, where it's also a hard fight, 15,000, 20,000 at most. 45,000 is in 6 weeks impossible. Like, we would have enough if we had another week. I think we probably could have gotten another $3,000 because we had a lot more people showing up to petition and interested in petitioning and emailing. I have a few sheets, or I went out and got a few sheets in the last week. Now if they start a few weeks a little earlier, but hey, you think of it when you think of it. You see the last, we really got to push because we are behind kind of emails. A lot of lessons, but I think we had a lot more people petitioning than we ever have, especially with Palestine movement stuff. A lot of people brought in from that. Yeah, so we're gonna push for anti-war politics, and I'm going to try to build some kind of committee, whether it's to run races, or I think before running races, maybe doing some solidarity economy working group where we try to build associations and affiliation with all of these things that can be an economic base. At least I was reading an article about doing that from a sharing economy person.
That sounds like a very good strategy.
Yeah, something we actually haven't started yet, even though we've kind of mentioned that. It's like, co-ops are a natural coalition for us.
Right.
Why aren't we? It's private property, I guess, so we're not like flying every weekend at the co-op. Because a lot of them are very loyal Dems as well, since you need a certain income to shop at the co-op regularly.
That's true too. Yeah. All right. Well, I had a fun time tonight, and I can't wait to see how the rest of this movie.
Part 2.
Part 2 will be coming up next Tuesday.
Yeah. All right. Can't wait.
All right.
Bye-bye. Good
Have
night.
a good one. All right. That was Dan Platt of the Albany Greens. So that's going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to try and do another stream on Sunday, but getting into grad school stuff. It's my first semester this summer, so, and also starting a landscaping job, so we'll see if I have enough time after all. But that's my plan. So stay tuned. Plan is to do more Legend of Zelda, but we'll see how it goes. All right. Have a good one, everybody.